Good morning, friends. My name is Alena Shautsova. I am an immigration attorney from Brooklyn, New York. Good morning, everybody. And today I'm going to talk about the presidential proclamation regarding travel ban, new travel ban, however you want to address it, immigration ban, the proclamation that was signed yesterday. So initially, the president announced that he's going to ban all immigration into the United States for 120 days. He said that it's going to be green cards and some work visas. Later, it was said it's going to be for 60 days. And finally, we got the final text of the proclamation yesterday. So let's talk about it. Who is going to be suspended from coming to the United States? Because first of all, it's a temporary thing. It's not for forever. The proclamation states that it's going to last initially for 60 days, and if there is need to extend it, it will be extended. So initially and right now, all we know is going to be for 60 days. It's very important, right? Let's talk about who is going to be affected. And in this particular presentation, of course, I'm going mostly talk about family groups of immigrants who are going to be affected. Why? Well, because proclamation makes it clear all employment-based immigrant visas will not be issued, basically, and people who do not have immigrant visas already will not be able to enter the United States. Okay, so first of all, who this proclamation is affecting? Is it affecting people who are in the United States or people who are outside of the United States? Well, the proclamation makes it clear. It affects only those who are all right now outside of the United States. It means those who are in the United States waiting for the adjustment of status, for example, even though adjustment of status based on employment, those who are thinking about filing for it, or those who filed for it, those who are thinking about filing for family-based benefits or asylum, they're not affected. Anyone who is in the United States, immigrant or not, is not affected currently by this proclamation. So if you have, I received many inquiries, what's going to happen with my employment authorization? I filed for my employment authorization. I'm waiting to extend my employment authorization. It's not, you guys are not affected. Whether you filed based on asylum and you're waiting for this employment authorization, adjustment of status, any other category, not affected. If you are thinking about sponsoring your family member, filing Form I-130, not affected, meaning that filing forms, it's not going to be affected by this proclamation. It may cause a slight delay in the future, maybe even not, but you guys are not affected. If you're just considering now to start sponsoring your family members, it's fine. There is no prohibition on submitting Form I-130, okay? So this proclamation is for those who are outside of the United States, do not have immigrant visa at the time when the proclamation goes into effect. Meaning that if you had your interview, employment-based green card before the proclamation and you managed to get your visa, but right now you are outside of the United States and you will be able to resume your travel, you'll be able to travel to the United States within the next 60 days, you should be allowed to come in, okay? It's not about you. It's only for those who are outside and do not have a visa, immigrant visa, and do not have any other authorization to travel back to the United States. For example, advance parole, boarding foil. Interesting situation with returning residents. If you have your visa right now, you will be able to come back. But if you don't have your returning resident visa, it seems you will not be able to come back because you will not really consider to be a lawful permanent resident, is my understanding, okay, without that returning resident visa. All right, so you have to be outside. You should not have an immigrant visa or any other authorization to travel. People ask me, what's going to happen if I travel on advance parole? You'll be fine, okay? If you got advance parole or boarding foil, you should be able to travel back to the United States. It's not a problem. Now, who is not affected? Broadly, lawful permanent residents, people who already got their lawful permanent residency and right now are outside of the United States, not affected. You guys will be able to come back, okay? Conditional residents as well. You may have your own set of problems, but they're not going to be related to this particular situation. For example, if you stay outside of the United States for too long, right? Or if you stay outside of the United States for too long and now you have to prove also you are not subject to public charge. Different problems not related to this particular proclamation. Lawful permanent residents, including conditional permanent residents, are exempt, all right? No need to worry. Also, returning residents with a visa, exempt. Those who already have a visa, if you already have a visa, if you manage to get a visa but were not able to use it, you're exempt. You'll be able to return, okay? Now, so there are other groups of people that the president stated will be exempt. For example, some employment cases will be exempt, but those employment cases are only for healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, physicians, coming to the United States to combat COVID-19. So that group of people will be exempt. The only employment-based group that will be exempt. EB-5 investors. Well, of course, they took all your money. Now they're going to tell you you're not going to be able to come in. You can come in. EB-5 investors are exempt. Now we're entering, there are some other groups of people, but I'm going to focus more on family immigration, because I think this is the most important part of it. So EB-5, employment-based, if you're a physician or nurse, exempt. And then we go to the area of family immigration. And here is the bad news. Very restricted opportunity for family members to come in within the next 60 days to get those visas and come in. Again, if you have a visa, it's not a problem. It mainly affects those who were waiting for the interviews. Let's say the interview was scheduled for the next 60 days and you guys were planning on coming in. These are the people who will be mostly affected. If you are a spouse of a US citizen or a child under 21, you will be able to come in, but only of a United States citizen. If it was or it is a lawful permanent resident who is sponsoring, banned. Lawful permanent resident spouses, lawful permanent residents children, it seems they're banned under this proclamation. Only United States citizens and children, and with children it's very interesting when I read it. It seems that stepchildren are allowed, right? Because a child for immigration purposes is somebody whose parents got married before the child's 18th birthday. So stepchildren should be allowed. But it's unclear if a child under Child Status Protection Act will be allowed, meaning that technically you are over 21, but you still fall into that child category because the proclamation states children under 21 and children of US citizens. So I think that they may argue that under those who fall under the Child Status Protection Act will not be allowed, even though technically they're children for other immigration purposes. So stepchildren are okay of United States citizens, Child Status Protection Act, not sure. Those who are going to be adopted, no need to worry, okay? If children are children, those children who are being adopted, who are going to become children of the United States citizens for immigration purposes, those children will be allowed. Who's not going to be allowed? Parents. Parents of the United States citizens are banned for now. Okay, parents are banned. That's probably the biggest problem with this proclamation, that parents are not allowed. Lawful permanent residents against spouses and children of lawful permanent residents not allowed. Fiancés allowed, because fiancé is a non-immigrant category, and non-immigrant, believe it or not, this proclamation does not affect non-immigrant visas. They're trying to fight the market situation, job market. That's why they're saying that they announced this proclamation. But most visas, work visas, many of them, they're non-immigrant, like H-1Bs, for example, E categories, R categories, religious worker. That proclamation does not apply to them at all, okay? So that's not a problem. So it means that if you are sponsoring your fiance and they have an interview, and it's the location that still conducts the interviews, you will not be affected by this problem, okay? That should not be your issue, which is a good thing. We do not know what particularly is going to happen with all of this. If it's going to be that another lawsuit is going to come to challenge the situation because of the difference in treatment, for example, of the spouses of United States citizens and spouses of lawful permanent residents, right? United States citizen spouses are allowed to come in, but the lawful permanent resident spouses would not be allowed to come in. Children of the United States citizens will be allowed to come in, and children of lawful permanent residents will not allowed to come in. With children, it's a whole different story. I don't really understand this ban on children because, let's say if a child is under 14, they're not allowed to work in the United States, right? So what is the purpose of banning children? I do not know, okay? I do not know. The proclamation is silent on many important parts, okay? For example, VAWA self-applicants. Well, technically, some of them used to be spouses of United States citizens, so I guess they're going to fall under this spouses category that is not affected. But what about VAWA self-applicants, those who are married to lawful permanent residents? Unclear. Then also I-730 beneficiaries, those who were sponsored by people who want asylum in the United States. I have no idea what's going to happen here. The proclamation does state that some groups may be regarded as needing to entry in national interest. So I would assume that some of those humanitarian so-called groups will be eventually exempt, and there will be more clarification as to how these people are going to be able to enter the United States. Okay, so we're going to see again who is not allowed. Parents of the United States citizens, siblings of the United States citizens, adult sons and daughters, those who are over 21 of the United States citizens, not allowed. Okay, only spouses and children under 21 years old. For lawful permanent residents, only lawful permanent residents themselves are allowed. Not spouses, not children. Again, many issues aren't clear. Those who are going through adjustment of status, they will be fine. So conditional permanent residence. Conditional permanent residence will be okay. A conditional resident is a permanent resident for all the purposes, and they're not going to be affected. If you already have your conditional permanent resident card, you should be able to come back to the United States. All right, so let me answer some questions. There is a question. I am from India, planning to come on to the United States for my master's program. Well, if you're planning on getting a student visa, you should not be affected, okay? Because non-immigrant visas are not being affected. And F1 visa, you're probably going to be using F1, you should be okay, all right? If you guys have questions, please, this is a good opportunity to ask them. What about to renew a green card? You should be fine. To renew a work permit, renew a green card, you are okay. File for adjustment of status in the United States, you're fine, you're not affected, okay? So no need to worry about that. Proceed with your plans as you planned. Stimulus check question, that's for another video, but let me try to answer it. So no stimulus check for a citizen married to an immigrant who already had a date for green card. If you guys are all in the United States, this proclamation is not going to affect you, okay? As to the stimulus checks, I have another video about that. Basically, if a person used Social Security, they should be entitled to stimulus checks. However, they can change their regulations. They constantly change them, trying to cut off people. But I know some stories that people who were filing taxes with their spouses, and the spouse is waiting for adjustment of status, but did file taxes before using Social Security, that couple received full 2,400 stimulus check, right? So I think this is, it depends on what did you use, social or tax ID. What if I sponsor my parents overseas? Would that be affected? Yes, parents of the United States citizens, only United States citizens can sponsor parents, and currently parents do not fall into any exemptions, meaning that parents will not be able to come within the next 60 days. Now, what it means and who's going to be affected by that? Only those parents who were supposed to have their interview and come within the next 60 days, right? If you're just trying to sponsor your parents, you still can do it because the process takes forever. The process takes like about a year. You first have to start by filing Form I-130. So you're not prohibited from doing that. There is no prohibition that they say, oh, you cannot even start the process. You can start the process and you should. Because again, this ban cannot be for forever, right? It will be over at some point, maybe even sooner than 60 days. Are parents who already have their permanent visa and are waiting to immigrate be affected? No. If you already have your visa, immigrant visa, and just waiting for your flight, you will not be affected. That's very clear message about that in the proclamation. How about I-751 interviews? They're fine. You guys who are waiting for those interviews, not going to be affected. All right, there is no prohibition on that. My wife is in Pakistan. Her case is with NYC. Will she be able to get a visa? If you're a U.S. citizen, she should be able to. If you're a lawful permanent resident, within the next 60 days, she will not be able to. Okay? But again, if you don't even have a scheduled date, I wouldn't worry much about that. As I said, I believe the situation may change sooner than 60 days, but we will see. I have to apply for green card based on approved I-730. I am in the USA. What will be with me? You should be okay, all right? Because if you're in the United States, that proclamation does not affect you. Is it going to affect for filing an employment-based green card? However, I'm working in the United States. If you're filing for adjustment of status in the United States, you'll be fine. This proclamation is only for those who are filing for immigrant visas, who do not have immigrant visas and they're outside of the United States. So if you're here, you're fine. Hello, what about F2 category? And had already appointment day but canceled by embassy because of Corona. Will it be affected? Potentially, yes. Yes, as I said, lawful F2. F2, if you are not immediate relative of the United States citizen, you will be affected, unfortunately, yes. What does it mean, master hearing after individual hearing because the judge asked for medical report? All right, that is not a question about this presentation. Master hearing is not an individual hearing. You should probably consult with your attorney just to deliver the documents to the judge. So what about these people who are already living in the United States last 8 years and asylum is pending? That's fine, guys. By the way, Proclamation states that nothing in the Proclamation would prohibit asylum filing and receiving withholding of removal or relief under Convention Against Torture. Okay, so you guys are absolutely fine if you're in the United States, or if somebody is going to be filing for asylum, they're not affected. Asylum category is not affected at all. How about pending I-45 filed from the United States? Well, I-45 can be filed only in the United States, and those who are in the United States are not affected. Good news, right? Can I sponsor my siblings? Is that law still affected? You can start sponsoring your siblings, absolutely. That law is not affected. But currently, siblings who are waiting for the interview within the next 60 days will not be able to get the visa and come in and enter the United States. They're prohibited. So asylum seekers are going to be okay, including the extension for the work permits. My brother have approved petition for his wife. My brother have a green card, and it will going to be in NYC soon. If your brother have not received my brother has an approved petition by his wife. Well, if the wife is a U.S. citizen, so if it's your brother is a spouse of a U.S. citizen, to be affected. If his wife is a U.S. citizen, if his wife is a lawful permanent resident, will be affected. So my understanding is this: if your case still wasn't even scheduled for the interview, this delay, currently delay of 60 days, you're not gonna even feel it, okay? The problem particularly is for those who already had their interview date scheduled within the next 60 days, and now they will not be able to basically collect on that visa. Those people are affected because they do not know when the interview will be rescheduled for them for. Now they will have to 100% at some point refresh their documents, right? But if your case is pending, 60-day delay in immigration, it's very common. You won't even feel it, especially in the stage of the NVC, because NVC takes 60 days to review your documents when you submit to them. So if you already went through the NVC stage and now you were waiting for your interview, it's a whole different story. What if one won the green card lottery last year and is waiting to either adjustment of status or consular processing? So DV lottery will be affected, but for those who are outside of the United States. If you are in the United States waiting for adjustment of status, or going to file for adjustment of status, right, you'll be okay. It's only for those who are outside of the United States. DV lottery, I think, will be affected the most just because of the time frames for DV lottery, right? Because there is a strict time frames when you can file and when you need to collect your visa, and if you don't fall into those frames, you will lose your opportunity to get the visa. So I think this particular proclamation affects that category the most, okay? Because with the employment or family-based visas, there is no real expiration date. I mean, there is a 60-day delay, maybe longer, but you guys will be able to come back, okay, come into the United States. DV lottery, once the deadline is missed, will not be able to. All right. What citizenship case is pending? Citizenship case pending, citizenship cases are not affected. If you're waiting for a citizenship interview, you're going to be okay. Interview was canceled due to coronavirus. Yes, it's an interesting situation. If someone's interview was canceled and they now fall into this group of affected people, They are unlucky people because they will be affected. The fact that you already had an interview scheduled prior is not going to save you from this proclamation, unfortunately. Okay, that's a very unfortunate situation. I filed my I-131 petition since September, and I just got a letter saying they are processing my file now. How long do you think it's going to take before the interview? Not sure, because I-131 is a petition for the document. Maybe you're referring to I-130 petition, and the processing times depend on the category you're in. Okay, if it's a sibling, sponsoring a sibling is going to be a very long time. If it's a spouse, United States spouse, citizen sponsoring you, the processing times are going to be much shorter. Adoption, again, is going to be fine, not affected for children. Well, adoption is okay, because for the adoption, you can adopt the child for immigration purposes when the child is under a certain age. So for like 99% of cases, the child is going to be under 21, right? So children of the United States citizens who are going to be considered children of the United States citizens once adopted, not affected. Will I get a new interview date for my naturalization was canceled? Yes, everyone whose interview was canceled in the United States because of coronavirus, every person is going to get a new interview date. Okay, that you don't need to worry about it, which is not when it's going to be. When probably the quarantines are over and we don't need to worry about contamination anymore and things like that, the interviews will be rescheduled. I just got married and I'd like to know if I can start the petition for my husband during this period. Yes, you can. You can start the process for your husband. My daughter filed for me and I'm in New York. I have my permit and social waiting for green card. Will it be okay? You'll be fine, right? If your daughter is a US citizen, I assume, and going through adjustment of status, you are otherwise adjustable. This particular proclamation does not affect you. Does it affect Val waiting on her I-45 interview? No. If you're in the United States going through adjustment of status, you don't need to worry about that. Okay, the proclamation is not about you. So whether you're a VAWA, self-applicant, somebody who's filing based on an employment category, or somebody who's filing based on family category or other categories, you're fine. A lot of questions about adoption, guys. Don't worry about adoptions. Adoption process is not affected. Will it last for 60 days or can it be more? I hope it's going to be shorter than 60 days. 60 days, they stated in the proclamation that they will re-evaluate the need. And if there is a need, they may extend it. But don't forget, this proclamation is most certainly going to be challenged in court because there are some issues with that, as I said. It treats different groups differently, and sometimes with no reasonable explanation, like why children of the lawful permanent residents are not allowed. Children cannot work, right? So we're going to see what's going to happen. Can it be longer? Yes, but that is going to be shorter. I'm married with a United States citizen. Still, we didn't receive the money. The government is going, oh, the money is a problem, guys. The money, many people didn't receive the money. That's a totally different presentation. We hope that they will fix their mistakes and they will send the money to everybody. But yes, that's something that is an issue for many. So basically, again, let me just sum it up. What about the TPS? That's a new question. TPS are fine, okay? There is nothing here that says that TPS hold will be affected in any way. And specifically, it says that if you have an advance parole, for example, and you travel on advance parole, you will not be affected. You will be allowed to come back. I'm married to the US citizen, and our baby is American citizen, and we filed I-130 spouse-sponsored petition, probably one I-130. Already got my work and travel permit. Interview was not scheduled. Does it affect me? It does not affect you. Again, anybody who is going through adjustment of status, those people who are in the United States, you guys are safe. It only applies to people who are outside of the United States, who do not have the immigrant visa, and who do not have any authorization to travel to the United States, like advance parole, re-entry permit, travel document, or perhaps a boarding foil. All right, so if you already have some ties with the United States, meaning that you have your visa, you are safe. If you're in the United States, you'll be fine. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Hopefully it was moderately useful, and I will keep you updated. I'm going to keep you updated as to what's going to happen. If I'm incorrect in anything that I stated, perhaps if they issue some, let's say they issue some explanations to the general points, I'm going to always post those updates. But for now, again, those who are in the United States, whatever process you guys are going through, it does not affect you. Those who already received the visas and just waiting to come to the United States, they're fine. It affects those who did not receive the visas. Employment cases, almost all employment cases except for healthcare workers, and majority of family-based cases, unless the person is a spouse or child under 21 years old of the United States citizens. Okay, lawful permanent residents are allowed to come back, not a problem. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and stay safe.